Hi everyone, my name is Davika and I'm your techie tantrika. And today I am here with an amazing person, Pat Wu, who is the Wooist. Say hi, Pat.
Hello, Pat.
It's awesome. So, Pat, you're the Wooist. Please let us all know what magic do you create? What magic transpires from you?
Sure. Well, the Wooist is really a philosophy, but the Wooist in general, this is the thing that helps men, specifically more so men, but anyone can use these skills to, you know, this. So a Wooist is really someone who is who has the ability to become a superhuman charmer.
Yes. Yes.
And we can use these skills hopefully for the good, as they can be for good or for bad
Mm.
when you have charm. Just like money, money is just a tool where you can, purchase things. It's neither evil or bad, neither is charm. So I help people become their most natural self by eliminating all those bad things that are preventing people from having connection, from preventing themselves from becoming their ultimate potential.
I love
So
that.
that is the Wooist in a nutshell. And yeah, I'm really excited about this interview. So thank you so much, Davika, for inviting me.
Well, I'm so excited to have you, Pat. I find your work so amazing and so intriguing. Like, I love that you have this amazing entertainment factor to what you do. Like, can you actually. Okay, so I will post a link to this in the description below, but you know what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about that 14 by 14 In and Out hamburger challenge that you did. That was. I love your shenanigans. I love that you keep everything so light. Like, what are your objectives in the amazing entertainment you bring to your audience?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I think that people will the entertainment side of me is just that I want people to digest this information in a fun, entertaining way, because then they'll digest it easier or more easily. And and I guess it's a part of my personality type where I just enjoy making things more fun, making things more light. I mean, our whole world is so serious these days. It's like, if you don't have this or you don't have that, you will die.
Right.
It pretty much comes down to that message. And there's so much fear-based tactics out there. There's so much fear about, if you don't have this, you'll never live a happy life. You'll never have a girlfriend. You'll never have connections. And for me to do this, I'm really just enjoying myself. I want everyone to see that, life isn't really that, doesn't have to be that serious. It doesn't have to be this do or die thing, and that we can have a lot more peace and love in life. Like, we can just have this joy in everything that we do, and we can have the same results if we live this way, but we'd also be enjoying ourselves while doing it.
I love that. That's amazing. Like, I mean, for me, I do try to infuse a bit of that as well in my videos. I call it releasing my inner Deadpool. Because, me being the Comic Con, culture friendly sort of person that I am, I just relate everything back to comic books and stuff. So I love that we have that
Yeah.
lightheartedness.
Yeah, I think we have a very similar like energy to it. Like, we both have this like lightness to it, and we have this deepness at the same time. And yeah, and I can see that in you very much. I remember when I first discovered you, I was like, yeah, that Davika, she's like me. I understand her, and I want to know more about this Davika.
Thanks, and I totally
Tantrika.
feel that way too about you, Pat. Like when I first found your information as well, I was like looking at what you're doing. I love the branding you've got going on in your site as well. I was actually going to ask you, how did you begin your podcast? Because your podcast is hella entertaining. Like it's pretty
Um,
epic. Yes.
yeah. Well, let's see. Well, my podcast, I wanted to. So a long time ago, when I had like zero women in my life, or had not a very great social life, and I mean, I'm still a super pretty nerdy geeky guy, or I've been called very cheesy.
It's about embracing
And
the nerd, though, right? Embracing the nerd.
yeah, and the reason why I created my podcast was because there's so much information about like how you have to be a certain way. Everyone's like, if you want to be successful, you have to be the certain way, or if you want to have more women in your life, for instance, you need to be the certain way. And I tried all that stuff, and it didn't work for me. It wasn't that it was to me manipulative, even though it was more so misrepresenting myself. It was more so that it wasn't bringing out the natural ability that we all have, the natural ability that we all are, the essence that we already are. And I wanted to bring out this side of other people where I allow them to be themselves. I allow them to, be a little silly, to be a little different in their social interactions or the way that they live. So that's kind of why I created my podcast, and it's really to just get you back to your natural essence as a beautiful human being.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh, Pat. Like, that is the most honest, most truthful way I can honestly say that I've heard that. Like, I can't think of any other time, like, it was so concise. Thank you so much for that. You hit on a really good point, too. Like, this is a really serious time, I feel, and I love that we're also seeing a lot of transitions in how we're allowing people to be who they are. And I mean, especially because you coach men predominantly, I want to know if you had to pick three things off the top of your head that you really feel like you want to get across to your male audience, like about being who they are, what would they be? And if you want to go
Yes,
past
yes.
that, that's fine.
You ask such brilliant questions. You know why? Because you're a fantastic listener.
Thank you so much, and you are as well. I think that's a big part of being.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep complimenting each other the whole time.
I know. So keep going.
Yeah, let's see. Well, the biggest thing that I want men or whoever listens to my podcast is I want them to understand that they are they already have everything within them, first of all. And I know that this has been rehashed a lot out there, but one thing that prevents all of us or all of us from not having what we want or not being as charming as we would like to be is because we just think too much. We have thoughts that are stopping you from allowing that to come out. So have you ever, like, for instance, have you ever been in the shower and then you all of a sudden have an amazing idea?
Yes, all the time.
All the time, yeah,
All the
right?
time, yes.
Or like, when you're on a walk and all of a sudden, when you're not thinking too much, all of a sudden you have all these brilliant ideas. And that is like the natural creative, natural you, essentially. But when you're worrying, let's say you're worrying a lot about, oh no, well maybe she doesn't like me, or oh no, maybe like I'm being judged a certain way. What happens is we're no longer in that natural state where we live so freely anymore. So our natural essence can't come out. We can't become that super awesome us because we have all this thought that is blocking our essence, you call it. So that's one thing that I'm always trying to rehash. Like, just, and that's a really hard thing too. It's easy to say, oh yeah, just stop thinking, or just be more confident.
Or be
And
yourself.
that's not, yeah, and that's not very helpful, I don't think.
Mhm.
So but when we can train our minds to understand, oh well, if I don't try to control my thoughts so much, it'll naturally just come out at the right time. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's kind of how it works. And I've noticed that that's how all my good relationships, all my good ideas, all the good stuff come about is when I'm in that natural state of not thinking so much.
It's amazing. And do you feel like there's something you recommend people to focus on instead, like versus the worrying? Is there something else like get some into the
Yeah.
reading?
Yeah. Well, I've noticed, like, for instance, worrying or thinking in the future. Whenever I worry or think in the future, that has never ever helped me out. Just knowing the fact that if I worry that this could happen or that could happen, just knowing that that will never help me out in any way, that kind of brings me a little more ease. Like knowing that, well, I'm handling what I can at the very moment, and I can't predict the future. I don't know what I'm going to say in the next 5 minutes. I can't predict what Davika has for me as the next question. She could give me a spiral of a question, and I know she may know, but I may not know what is the next question, and I'm just going to have to give my best ability in that present moment to answer it. And that's kind of how I like to live my life. The more I am here and not in my head thinking, the more I'll be able to present what is awesome
Yes.
to the being. So that's the first point
Yeah.
that I want to make. And I kind of went kind of long on that.
That's okay. I mean, it seems, I know what you mean. Like, there's like sometimes a simple concept, but it needs a full explanation. Like, because if it was so easy, people would be doing it already, right? So
Yes.
it does need the explanation it needs. So I totally understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and then another thing that I want people to understand is that, some people just match with each other a little better than others. A lot of us, we feel like we can manipulate relationships. We think that, okay, well, this person, and we base it off the premise of this person doesn't like us. So how can I now make them like me? And it's always this premise, which is like a lot of dating magazines or all these fashion magazines. It's like, how do you get the guy to text you back? Well, if the guy likes you, he'll text you back.
Thank you. Exactly.
If the woman likes you, she'll text you back.
Right?
Yeah, there's no need to manipulate the situation, and I find that a lot of people try to get that competitive advantage by trying to manipulate that situation, and I've noticed there's so much energy that is wasted doing that. So my entire thing is find people that have the same values as you, that have that same like energy vibration as you, that have natural connectedness with you, and spend more time with that person. And the person that you don't connect with, the person that you feel, and this is how you kind of know when this person doesn't like gel with you, when you kind of sink down in your seat.
Yeah.
When you're just like, oh God, oh. Like whenever you get that feeling, like you want to sink down in your seat and you feel like ooh, and you get that those sounds of ooh, then like, okay, this person is probably not someone I want to spend all my time with.
Probably not.
Right.
No.
Well, Devika, it's more like, Devika, tell me everything. I want to know everything about you.
I know,
I'm
you
so
got me
curious about
leaning
you.
in too, listening to you as well. I'm like, oh, tell me more.
Yes. Hey, let's see. Yeah, speak into my ear, Devika. I wanna hear all your words. I don't want to miss one thing. Right? And we
This is the way it's gotta be, right? Like, this is the way. Yeah. No, I hear you. That's awesome.
Yeah. And naturally, if we can spend more time with the people that we enjoy, then we're gonna be our better selves, typically. Right? So that's kind of one thing that I stress a lot about, which is that very thing.
That is so amazing. So I would think you still have a third point, right?
Yes, and I still have one more third point.
Yes.
And my third point is that wooing, since I talk about wooing a lot, wooing is not really something that you do, it is something that you are. That's what I will say. So a lot of people misconstrue as, okay, well, if I have the right lines, if I have the right things to say, if I have the right techniques, then I will charm this lovely person that I've wanted so badly. That is what people think.
Yeah.
But the truth is, our words are a very little part. Our techniques are a very little part of how we connect with another human being. What connects us to another human being is who we are as people. Like, for instance, let's say, and I have nothing against homeless men. Okay, first of all. So imagine a homeless man coming up to you and he's spitting the best lines ever to you. Like, he thinks you're sexy, Devika. He thinks that you are his soulmate, and he would love to offer his lunch pail to you to go on a date with. He wants to go on a date with you in his cardboard box, for instance. Yes. I mean, would you, like, whatever line he says, I'm not sure if you're attracted to homeless men or not.
I'm
but,
not discriminatory. But if you really look into my dating past, like, everybody was very different from each other. So I have yet to put a homeless individual on the list.
And nothing against homeless men again.
Exactly. But I'm never going to say never, I have nothing against them either.
But typically I'm saying, perhaps maybe that's not the person that you gel with, let's say, for instance,
Yeah.
right? That's not your demographic that you naturally connect with.
Yeah.
So if he used these lines, he knew exactly what to say, what techniques to use on you. I'm sure it would be a little incongruent with your personality, right?
That's the other thing too. Yeah, if anybody, whether they're this individual we're talking about or anyone, if they're using techniques, I can tell right away. Like, it's so easy, and I think the majority of people can. Some people have come, I think, to accept that other people use techniques, whereas with me, I'm like, I don't have time for that. But if they're actually being really genuine, that is a huge, thing for me. That ropes me in very easily. Somebody who's really at ease with themselves and relaxed, like you were talking about earlier, really makes me feel at ease and relaxed. And I feel like, oh, they're not hiding anything. Let's get to know this person a bit more, And then there's that energy, the feeling that they exude too. So, our homeless individual here that we're talking about could be exuding something amazing from themselves. That
He could.
want to know more
Yes.
about him, right? So yeah.
Yes. But at the same time, let's say this homeless man is super charming too. He could, he wouldn't have to use those lines, and you would be charmed by him as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I want people to understand. It's not the thing that you say. It is who you are as a person. And if you stop thinking so much, that person will come through, and you'll just have that natural charm that you don't think that you have a lot of time, but it'll just come through.
It makes so much sense to me what you're saying, because it goes back exactly to what you were saying before. People think they need this and this and this, which really makes me feel like we are in this consumer sort of like very consumer oriented market in our society right now. And I think in a way marketing is geared towards trying to satisfy something that was missing from us, but we're never going to get that through anything external.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And adding to that point, I think there's so many things out there that say that you need this in order to have happiness. You need this in order to have better relationships. Like, for instance, if you don't have this lipstick, then you are not going to be sexy. Yeah. You're not going to, that man will not call you back or text you back if you don't have this sexy lipstick. And you're like, oh, it must be the lipstick. I must have the lipstick now.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a magazine that says 5 things that you need to keep a man. If you don't do these things, then you will lose him forever. And now it's like, oh no, I'm going to lose this man. I must buy this magazine now.
And you know what happens then, too? Some people will go home and be like, I know you were doing something today, like, I know you're doing something this week, and I need to know right now. And it's like, no, I'm just hanging out. Like, where'd this come from? Like, this paranoia starts, right? For some people, just because the seed's been planted, right? And your seeds can either be of love or of this paranoia or fear. Goes back to exactly what you're talking about. We get into a lot of trouble basically when we start listening too hard to other things telling us what we need, like outside of ourselves to be happy.
Yeah, and one thing that really stuck out to me, especially in one of my podcasts, I had a guest, and ever since he said this one line, it's just kind of been stuck in my head for the last few months now.
I want to hear this, yeah.
And I'm going to give it to you guys, and when you guys hear it, you guys will understand this. And Davika, you will also understand this as well. So there's an additive approach, and this was by my guest, Jamie Smart, by the way. He said this, and I loved it. So he said that a lot of us, we base a lot of things on an additive approach. For instance, if I have these 5 steps, then I'll become super me, right? But it's more so, this is how I kind of more see it these days. It's if you already are super, and if you minus all the excess thinking and all the stuff that is stopping you from becoming that super person, then you'll become super. You'll become super you. So it's not really adding more things. It is more so just eliminating the things that are preventing you from being the super you that is already you.
Absolutely. It's about taking away, which is a very Zen concept. Like I have you ever studied Buddhism?
I used to go to the temple a few times a year with my parents, but
Oh,
I
nice.
never really learned too much about Buddhism,
Hmm.
except for some Zen philosophies.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and is that a Zen philosophy?
I think of it as that because I mean I have some training as well, like or at least some understanding of Buddhist concepts too, and I mean I love it because it's universal, right? Buddhism, like there's so many teachings that are universal that no matter what you believe in, it's very practical, common sense. It's like common sense in religion, like it's the most
Hmm.
common sense, most applicable thing I could find really when it came to studying religion and spirituality. A lot of what I was finding, and a big part of that I came across was this concept of you have exactly what you said. You have everything inside of you. It's about excavating all that. It's about bringing all that. Unearthing all that and bringing it to the surface, right? And that will raise your energy and your vibrancy, right? To be who you are. It's like everything you just said. It sounds so zen to me, and I love that. Yes.
Yeah, great, great.
Yes.
And how exactly do you kind of bring your own spirituality to all of this? Because I know that you actually have some superpowers yourself, Davika.
We
We were
were
just
just
talking about
talking
this earlier. And I remember I was like getting kind of chills, like, ooh, wow, the Vika can see through everything that I can do. So if the Vika can see through everything I can do, that means that none of those techniques will work on her.
Not that you're technique oriented, so this is
Yeah, not that I'm
awesome.
technique
You're
oriented,
like
but
you are
but if
yourself.
I did, she could catch me. Like,
You
I won't
yourself.
even try.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you are the antithesis to pickup artists as well. Like I was saying I am, but I feel like you are too because I mean, we were even talking about this, right? Like your energy to me your energy feels very different than any pickup artist I've come across and I mean, usually I can sniff this stuff out pretty quickly, but I also notice that those people tend to stay away from me too. Like, I think something in their energy is like, there's something that's not going to work here, like, there's just,
Yeah.
this is not going to happen. And maybe that's something pickup artists need to hone. I don't know. Like, I don't know enough about the industry. All I know is I've met a lot of people, and you probably have as well, where you have people who have tried it and they're like, oh, like, I wasted my money on this and got nothing out of it, right? Actually, before I go into energy with energy work, since you've asked, I'm wondering actually, have you or any of your clients actually have some interesting stories to share about their experiences with pickup artistry, or?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I actually started in a lot of it myself. And the reason why I kind of got out of it was because it was very incongruent with who I was. Like I mentioned earlier, it was saying that in order to be an attractive man, you must have these specific qualities, you must do these specific things, and these are and so it's kind of saying that you need to add on to what is already perfect of you and become someone else, essentially. And the people that this works really well for are the people that are already kind of that personality type.
Yes.
So that's why it works for them really well. They're like, yes, this makes sense to me. It feels right because that has always been who I am. I, I've always been someone who likes to, use certain techniques to get what I want in life.
That's true,
So,
actually. Yeah.
so for the people that have already been that way, it'll work very well.
Yes.
But for the majority of people who are not like that, well, it's going to crash and burn on them because it's going to give them more excess thinking. It's going to get away from themselves. So does it work? Yeah, it works for people who are like that personality type,
Yeah.
but it won't work for people who aren't very aligned to that concept, that idea.
I also have to wonder about the quality of intimacy in relationships for people who have that personality type. Like, you can't have mind blowing sex, as far as I'm concerned, if you cannot be vulnerable. And being vulnerable means being honest and truthful. So, I mean, I have yet to come across, like, in my world of clients, anybody who successfully uses that. I mean, I think a lot of people who do live like that usually don't want to work with me anyways, like, which is understandable. Like, I ask a lot of honest questions, just like how we're talking right now. And I think that in itself is usually the kryptonite of pickup artistry.
And I want to bring up this point with the story that I have for you,
Oh,
and you'll kind of see this.
Yeah.
So I was out with a client recently,
Yeah.
and he mentioned to me when we were out meeting women. I asked him, "Oh, so how did that go?" Because I saw that you guys were kind of connecting over there, and I was like, "What did you say to her? Like, how did it feel?" And then he said, "Yeah, it was good. I told her that I was 25 years old." I'm like, "Wait, what? But you're 33 years old. Why would you start a lie?"
Yes.
He's like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, we're at this place that's a little younger, younger crowd, and if she understood that I was 33 years old and she is 22 years old, then she would think I'm creepy. So I told her that I was 25. I'm like, what? Why? Why would you start off with a lie? And then he said, well, you know, later on I can tell her that once we're in a relationship or something, then I can tell her that I'm really 33 years old.
Did
Like,
he
well,
even look 25? Like, I get the
he
sense.
didn't look like 25. He didn't look like
I
25.
don't think so.
And I talked to a lot of women about this, by the way, and they said if it started off from a lie, then it wasn't just that one lie. He probably lied in a lot of different instances as well.
So he's lying to you in the process too.
He's probably lying to me in the process as well.
Yes.
Like,
lying
so
is exhausting.
yeah,
Really
and that to me, it's like you're starting from a premise of dishonesty, and then how can you become honest if you start dishonest?
Yes.
Right. So a lot of pickup artistry is based off of misrepresenting what you are, and then kind of saying, "Hey, this is who I really am."
Surprise.
Surprise. And then women are like, "Damn, I got tricked. I got conned."
I almost feel like too they never really find out who the person really is. You know, like they might be like, "Oh, well, this is the truth in this circumstance," but then it's like, well, how many more of these were there? I actually had done an article on cheating for my series on cheetahscity.com, and I talk about this as well. Like exactly what you said. Lying is exhausting. I think even for people who've done it their whole life, I think it's taken its toll. Like, I think that it takes a huge toll on people's energy. I think of the way... Are you a Harry Potter fan, Pat?
I've watched the first three, but I know you're a big one because I've seen you in Harry Potter wear before.
But you know of Voldemort, right? Like, you know this is the...
Yes,
you know.
yes.
So Voldemort separates his soul into, like, 7 different parts, and he becomes weaker. And I look at this as separating one's soul. Like, it's separating your energy into compartments to try to keep everything straight and to keep... You know, and to keep that up, it's just too much energy. Just the thought of it makes me feel drained, which goes back to your question about energy. Like, yeah, I'm energy sensitive, and when just thinking about the concept of draining one's energy to try to live a lie, because that's so against our being as we are as human beings, as far as I'm concerned. Like, that's not what we were put on Earth for, as far as I think. Like, that's not what our energy, you know, works well with. It's not compatible.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell a kind of embarrassing story right now, what you just reminded me right now.
Yes.
So, a long time ago, I had this girlfriend, and when we had sex like a few times, like kind of early on, I remember I was really, really nervous, right? I was super nervous, and I remember I had a lot of trouble getting hard. I remember I had a lot of trouble with it, and I made an excuse or a lie. I made a lie saying, "Oh, you know, like I think it was just like the lighting. The lighting was weird, and I couldn't get hard." And then she got really mad at me. I was like, "Why are you mad at me?" She's like, "Pat, you know that you were lying. That it was not the lighting. I don't. Why would you say that?" And I just felt insecure in that moment, and I lied about. I mean, it wasn't just that. It was I was nervous.
Yeah.
I was overthinking. I couldn't be present with her. I couldn't, and then I had to blame it on something.
Yes.
And the reason when I started lying about that, I gave the lie all the power. Like, I pretty much gave the sexual dysfunction the power over me. If I was able to just say, you know what, sometimes I sometimes I get really into my head and I think a lot and I can't get hard.
It's so brave of you to share that because the thing is, you are one in many people who've had this happen to them, you know, like, and I think there is a lot of pressure put on men in general. Like, this is why, you know, we talk about male ego and the fragility in sex, but this is a big part of why it happens, right? Like, you guys are humans too. You are going to be subject to, you know, you're not a robot. You're going to be subject to having fears, you know, and yeah, exactly.
What
You know,
do you mean I am not a robot?
just not compute. I know, like you know, and I think the strength of your vulnerability in talking about that comes through so much. Like that is such a powerful story that you've shared with us because you know you definitely are not the only man who's ever had this, and I wouldn't even call it a problem. It's just that happened, right? Like it's a great lesson. It sounds like for you and for anybody listening to this because yeah, honesty is the best policy. And if a woman, you know, that you're with, a partner that you're with, cannot understand that, then what kind of partner is that, right? Like, they need to be understanding, you know, like, I mean, anything could happen to any of us during intimacy and sex. I mean, none of us are perfect at all. I just think it was beautiful for you to share that with us. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. And may I say one last thing?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I will say that the reason why a lot of us feel like we have to lie or we have to become a certain person is because a lot of us don't understand the idea of duality. So many of us believe that we have to be the certain image that everyone holds us on.
Mhm.
And if we can destroy this image, this idea of that we are this way, then again, we'll be easier in being able, we'll have the ability to think less by understanding that everything is duality, which means that sometimes I'm a really good charmer and the most charming person on the planet. And then other times, or maybe later in the day, 5 minutes from now, I'll be as charming as a brick wall.
Yeah.
I won't be very charming at all,
Yeah.
right? So, and that goes for sometimes I can be kind of creepy. That's just how it is. And other times I'm not so creepy.
Yeah.
And if I can release that image of being a thing,
Mhm.
then I'll be able to live a lot more joyfully.
Exactly. And we can't control what other people think about us too, right? Like, you
Yeah.
know, going back to your question to me about energy, I just want to give people a bit of backstory as what started that conversation. I had told Pat that I had done a video on being a photo psychic so I can read people from their photos, and I wish I had taped your
Yeah. My face was like, "Uah!"
that was the reaction, yes. And it's just perfectly fine because you know what? That's a lot of people's reactions towards it. And I love the honesty of your reaction. I thought it was so beautiful. And I'm talking about this because I feel like, you know, what you were saying about us having different modes of who we are because that's who we are as humans. We also cannot control what people think about us, and this goes exactly back to your second point that you'd mentioned. We're saying people look to the external to try to to try to bring happiness to their life, and I think this really goes back to what you were saying, which is we are humans, you know, we are always going to have different modes, we're going to have different feelings, we are allowed to have those things, and we have no control over how people perceive us. So all we can do is be the best of who we are. There's people who are always going to, you know, think of us in one way, even though we might not be that way, or, you know, might just get the wrong idea of us. And to me, I feel like a big part of that is just saying, that's fine. You know, like, don't try to control that. It goes back exactly to what you were saying about what you read in those magazines where it says, oh, 5 ways to keep a man, or, you know, those sort of things. It's like, why? Why bother, right? Like, why even try? Why not just, I think the alternative usually is to understand why you feel this need and why you feel you're compatible with that person you're trying to keep and work on oneself. But I think, you know, and our work like what we're doing helps give those people that are in these ruts the tools that they need to kind of dig out and look for other options in terms of self-development and raising their vibrancy to attract more like-minded people. And I think that's, you know, that's the beauty of what we are able to do, and saying to people, hey, breathe, calm down and be you, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We just, get
Hey, thanks for letting me breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
I was holding my breath for like a minute and a half.
We help people breathe, Pat. I love it. Yes, exactly. You're like every client that you have that says that to you every day, I'm sure. They're like, oh, Pat, thank you. I've been holding this in for the last half an hour. Just
Yeah, I was about to pass out right now, Davika. I'm back to consciousness now.
Yeah, exactly. Back to being conscious and aware and breathy. We can make that a new term. I'm so breathy. I'm inhaling and exhaling. This is great.
Yeah. Davika, breathy.
Yeah, exactly. So, what kind of offerings are on the horizon for Pat? Like, is there anything that you want to talk about that you're working on or that you're really excited about right now? Like, what's new in your world?
Yeah, well, I have a book that is coming out, and that's really exciting. The book is called The Art of Wooing.
Oh, I love
it. Yes, and it's a book about this book is directed for men specifically, so it is called Rediscovering Your Natural Ability to Meet and Attract Women. So it is a very wooing book, and it is for mostly men. And yeah, I put all my experiences of what worked, what didn't work, and why things work. And yeah, and it's a bunch of stories from my embarrassing childhood.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
In my 20s mostly, so.
Oh, nice. So it wasn't too long ago, but still, I love it. I mean,
yeah, I'm only 30 years old, so I guess maybe not that long ago.
Exactly, training grounds. This is, these are stories from, from the forefront of training, it sounds like. Which is amazing. And
it's the Wooist.
When do you think this will be out? How do people get a hold of you to find out?
Yeah, so you can get my book. Just come to my website at wooist.com, which is WOOIST, and then .com. And then you can see my book in the front page, so you can just check that out there.
Oh, sweet. That's amazing. And I mean, I know when you're writing, like this is what I find, or just across the board with anybody in the self-help industry, I realize when they're writing, they usually, sometimes put a halt on getting new clients or just have a lower roster. Are you looking at bringing on new clients into your life right now? Like, can people get a hold of you for coaching right now?
Yeah, they can get a hold of me at coaching, and they just have to send me an email at patrick@wooist.com. You can also just find my contact information on wooist.com.
Yeah, exactly. All of the glory is there.
All of the glory is right in front of you. Just type in a few letters and then press enter.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised Wooist.com wasn't taken, to be honest. Like, it's such a catchy, very, very catchy URL you got going on there.
Yeah, well, thank you there, the Davika Chantrika.
Actually, how long or how far down your path did you realize that you were going to do this? I'm so curious about that. Like, when was the light bulb go off for Pat?
Yeah. Well, I had an offer at a company called. Well, I had an offer at a company called HP. Maybe some of you have heard of it, also known as Hewlett Packard.
Yes.
And I was offered a pretty good amount of salary.
Yeah.
Pretty good amounts. And at that moment, I decided, am I going to live a life that is going to be more so of a 9-to-5 job where I'm okay at it, I'm pretty good at it as a recruiter, or do I follow this calling that I'm getting right now? And I, for some reason, I just listened to this voice, instead of making hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'll just make a lot less for the moment.
For now.
Yeah.
Things take time to build.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's inspiring.
So that was kind of how I became into it. I guess I just got this idea. I've always had it. It was kind of this idea in the background saying, do this, become the Wooist, Yes. It's time. And I never just listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us, like what I was saying earlier, when we stop thinking so much, that voice just kind of comes and starts speaking to us. And a lot of people don't think that they know what they want to do or what they want to become. But if they just listen to that and stop thinking so much, it'll just come.
Absolutely. And it sounds like, too, your intuition had strengthened as a result of finally heeding that call, right? Like, to me, that's intuition, that calling that you had going on there.
Yeah, and that's the same intuition when I'm connecting with another human being. I'm listening to, oh, well, if she seems really nervous. She seems really tense right now. Why is she so tense? Or or I can tell, even though she's not saying the words that she likes me, I can feel that she likes me now. By every little thing that she's doing, I can feel it now.
Yeah.
And the more I notice that intuition, the less I look at, like, okay, well, is she doing this thing, then this thing, then this thing? That's how I know she likes me. I can just feel it now when I just stop thinking so much.
Yeah. So you definitely help people vet, potential dates too, it sounds like. That's amazing. I feel like this amazing positive spark is where I think we can tie off this amazing interview that we've had. And is there anything else you wanted to add, Pat? Like, we know where to find you. We are very excited about your book. I know I am. I'm going to be reading this, by the way. Like, I know, like, I love reading advice for men because I think that it's so transferable on both ends of the spectrum, regardless of whichever gender people relate to. But yes, is there anything else that you would love to share with us?
Yeah, so I guess I'll kind of end it on this. And again, I went off my intuition as the first thought that came to my mind. And that is, when we say that when people say just be confident, right? Really what they really mean is just be comfortable.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to. That's what it really means. Just be comfortable. And if we can just stop thinking so much, enjoy the other person a little bit more, then that confidence will just come out. You'll become super you.
Yes, exactly. Super you. I love it.
Super you.
Yes, which is really inside you.
Which is inside of you. Yeah, and I was thinking about this last thing,
Yes.
where if you think about it, all superheroes didn't work at becoming a superhero. They were born becoming a superhero. They had natural superhero powers. Like, some person may have superpower of flying, some person may have a superpower of speed, but it was always born within them, and so is your natural charm. So is your natural being. When you just allow for it to come out, you are that super person.
I always found it so interesting too. Like, Stan Lee had decided that the X-Men, like mutants, would start showing their abilities by their teenage years. And I was like, this makes so much sense to me. Like, our personalities do start really showing up in our teenage years, as far as I'm concerned. Like, that man really overlaid into real life so much. And I don't even know if he was very conscious about that. Like, but I've always been really grateful to him. So, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you mentioned this as well. Like, you know me, I love that comparison. That was just
Shout out to Stan Lee and Davika.
Yeah, exactly. Just lay the nerd on me. I love it so much. And, I hope that we get to do another interview again like this because it's always a pleasure to see you. I'll make sure to also include your information below. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too, Davika. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of the Techie Tantrika today.
And have yourself an epic day.
Okay, thank you.
Let's dance
See you guys.
out of this.